Everyone in the story is so focused on the first Targaryen king who was able to conquer and unite the Seven Kingdoms for the first time ever. But the ancestor who actually made the right call by immigrating the family to this continent from the one over gets overlooked, even though there's some fun lore surrounding him. Lord Aenar Targaryen, who ruled over his family and some fisherfolk on the island Dragonstone. Very little is written about him in the books. His only mention comes in the 4th book through Theon's sister Asha's POV, while talking to her educated uncle, Roderick. Lord Roderick tapped the book with a long nail. See here, Marwyn claims to have found 3 pages of signs and portents, visions written down by the maiden daughter of Aenar Targaryen before the doom came to Valyria. That's it. That's the quote. Just a couple sentences, but it fills in so many questions we've had since the first few chapters of the 1st book. A race called the Valyrians that were quickly taking over this fictional world a few centuries back have their homeland repeatedly described as in ruin, cursed, destroyed. There's a veil of mystery surrounding how the greatest civilization can be wiped out in a flash. But the Targaryen family is still around thanks to Aenar's actions 400 years ago. The quote from A Feast for Crows brings us his daughter having visions before the doom hit Valyria. We start piecing together things with this alone, even though the 5th book, the last one published, doesn't revisit the topic. While readers have been anticipating the next installment, we've been getting some more world-building supplementary books instead of the 6th novel. The World of Ice and Fire that goes over pretty much everything lore-related, and the more recent one, Fire and Blood, focusing on the Targaryen family only. It's no longer up to readers to put the pieces together regarding Aenar and his future-seeing daughter. The World of Ice and Fire flat out tells us what exactly happened. Even clears out some of the mystery behind the doom. Fire and Blood just copy and paste the exact same paragraph to save some work for the writers helping author George Martin. The Targaryens were of pure Valyrian blood, dragon lords of ancient lineage. 12 years before the doom of Valyria, Aenar Targaryen sold his holdings in the freehold and the lands of the Long Summer, and moved with all his wives, wealth, slaves, dragons, siblings, kin, and children to Dragonstone, a bleak island citadel beneath a smoking mountain in the narrow sea. Before I go on with the quote, I think I should say we never get to know who his wives were, siblings, and kin, but it's a safe bet he married sisters or a close relative, as per Valyrian Dragonlord tradition. Only his 2 children are named. Aenar is actually where the Targaryen family tree begins, and it's because of this lore book that I was able to make all my family tree videos that actually helped my channel get off the ground. His heir was Gaemon, nicknamed the Glorious, and Gaemon's future sister wife, Daenys, nicknamed the Dreamer. I'm giving a lot of credit to Aenar for dodging the doom that took out every one of the other 39 Dragonlord families, when it should be going to his daughter, Daenys the Dreamer. But it was huge for him to listen to his young daughter with the pressures the Targaryens were dealing with at the time. There was no one ruling family or king back at Valyria. Rule was split between 40 magic, dragon-controlling families in a constant state of power struggle. Even if Daenys compiled an entire book's worth of successfully predicted visions called Signs and Portents, they may have never been welcomed back to the Valyrian Peninsula, considering they were known as one of the more minor families. Packing up and leaving would be seen as a cowardice attempt to become the big fish in a small pond, instead of being a small fish in Valyria. At its apex, Valyria was the greatest city in the known world, the center of civilization. Within its shining walls, 2 score rival houses vied for power and glory in court and council, rising and falling in endless subtle, oft savage struggle for dominance. The Targaryens were far from the most powerful of the Dragonlords, and their rivals saw their flight to Dragonstone as an act of surrender, as cowardice. But Lord Aenar's maiden daughter Daenys, known forever afterward as Daenys the Dreamer, had foreseen the destruction of Valyria by fire, and when the doom came 12 years later, the Targaryens were the only Dragonlords to survive. Daenys' vision came true. Her seeing fire destroy Valyria directly confirms it was in fact a crazy chain volcanic eruption, with all 14 likely going off at the same time. Regular fire wouldn't be able to kill every dragon on the peninsula, but lava. I don't think Daenys told her father, Aenar, to choose Dragonstone for their family's new home. That was just the obvious pick, with a castle already built by the Valyrians using their signature fire magic to carve stone on an island with a similar climate to Valyria that they would find comfortable. All they had to do was walk in. The island and castle both share the same name Dragonstone, which can get a little confusing, I know, if I clearly don't differentiate the two. But the place also happened to have a volcano, perfect for the 5 family dragons to lair near. Dragonstone had been the westernmost outpost of Valyrian power for 2 centuries. Its location, athwart the gullet, gave its lords a stranglehold on Blackwater Bay and enabled both the Targaryens and their close allies, the Valyrians of Driftmark, a lesser-known house of Valyrian descent, to fill their coffers of the passing trade. Valyrian ships, along with those of another allied Valyrian house, the Celtigars of Claw Isle, dominated the middle reaches of the Narrow Sea, whilst the Targaryens ruled the skies with their dragons. We'll be seeing and hearing about House Valyrian a lot in the spin-off show coming out this year called House of the Dragon. But the Valyrians were not dragon lords back when they lived on Valyria. But since Aenar moved the family to Westeros, right next to Valyrian's island, the two houses began a deep alliance, constantly being strengthened with marriages between them. This would give House Valyrian some blood of the dragon. Aenar had no interest in dominating this western continent, like the Valyrians were attempting in Essos. He just chilled with his family, happy to survive and soon thrive after the doom would occur, 12 years after their move. The other dragon lords were calling him Aenar the Exile, or the Lord Who Left, but he got the last laugh. Maybe not laugh, cause I can't imagine any character happy to see their homeland blow up. Aenar made no contact with the rumored surviving dragon lords that were away from the peninsula when the doom occurred, or even attempted to return to the Valyrian ruins to check out the aftermath. The other dragon lords didn't last long in Essos, so the Targaryens were the last purple-eyed, silver-haired magic users. Aenar didn't even bother making a house sigil for the Targaryens, to fit in with his fellow Westerosi nobles and royalty. The three-headed red dragon on a black field would come later with Aegon's conquest, that he only accomplished because of having 3 dragons. Dragonstone, 400 years back, was surrounded by contentious land dispute wars. The Storm Kings ruling over the Stormlands were constantly trying to grab more land or fight back for their land against Kings of the Trident or Kings of the Rivers and Isles. Even some petty kings nearby before the Crownlands became a kingdom after the Targaryens conquered. Aenar and the 5 generations after him kept to themselves and the other Valyrian families, just collecting gold from transport tariffs. Aegon the Conqueror and his 2 sister wives came around after 6 generations of living on this island, making them the 7th gen, fitting the theme of their 7 kingdoms, and the religion they would later pick up from the Westerosi, the Faith of the Seven, a very common recurring theme in the story. Aegon would finally use his family's dragons Aenar brought with him and easily take over. Out of the 5 Aenar brought during the move, only the youngest survived all the years leading up to the conquest. That one would grow up to be Aegon's bonded beast, Balerion the Black Dread. Dragons live a very long time, but not forever. But with the perfect climate and conditions, those original 5 dragons had success laying and hatching eggs. The Ironborn Lord, Roger Carlaw, aka Theon and Asha's uncle, doesn't share what he finds after reading the pages out of Daenys' Signs of Importance. But we do get a small moment with the Archmaester that collected these pages, Maester Marwyn, one of the more interesting characters. And he's on his way to serve Daenerys after speaking with Sam Tarly at the Citadel. We'll definitely get a lot of chapters with Marwyn soon, and because of his interest in magic, he may share more about Daenys the Dreamer's visions with her descendant, Daenerys, to help her understand the Targaryens' magic. Daenys isn't the only one of the Targaryens in the lore to have visions. Daenerys has this power too in the current story. There's actually a few Targaryens with this ability. Their premonitions are called dragon dreams, because they consider themselves the blood of the dragon. Maester Aemon being another, and even one of his brothers during one of Martin's short stories shares his dragon dream. But Aenar's daughter would be remembered as the most notable prophetic dreamer for how she saved the family and ultimately changed this world.